Hello and welcome to Battle Streams in Middle-earth, and welcome to Damian's hobby vlog number, I have no idea. I am so far behind in my editing. I think it's going to be about 52-ish. If I get that right, it'll be a miracle. But yes, this is my latest hobby vlog, charting my own hobby journey. And so, indeed, welcome to Battle Streams in Middle-earth, a channel where we aim to help you clear your backlog. And the way we do this is primarily in two ways. We have a live stream every couple of weeks where the whole community hangs out together and paints the same thing just for the joy of the hobby, and we just chat normally on a Friday or Saturday night for a few hours and hang out and paint for the fun of it. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, go out and check out our live tab. All the past episodes are there, and you can check out our social media for details on the next stream. And the other way I try and clear my backlog is my own backlog, and I track my own hobby journey and my own attempts to reduce my pile of opportunity by seeing what I've been painting or what I've been getting up to. And that's what this is. This is the latest vlog. So if any of that sounds good, please hit subscribe on the channel below. Tell your friends about it, and we've also got a link down below for our Patreon scheme. So if you like what you see in this video and you like what we're doing on streams, please consider joining the scheme. There's a super cool community of about 100 B-Simers who hang out together and chat and support the channel, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you, because you help me keep the lights on and keep going here. So thank you, and a shout out to every one of our wonderful patrons. So hobby vlog about 52-ish. I think this is also, I'm guessing again, I'm trying my best, I think this is called Project Shire 15. Again, who knows how close I'll get on that. But which means this is the 15th video looking at my ongoing Shire project. Oh yes, we're back to the Shire, we're back to Hobbits. What's in this video? It's Hobbits again. So, what are we going to be working on? It's going to be a video with difference, because here's our box. Oh yes, this box has been showing up on vlogs since July 2020, I believe, and it's super exciting. It used to have like 100 unpainted Hobbits in it, and now, my friends, I can't show you in here for reasons that will become clear. There are now 16 Hobbits left in here, and we're going to deal with 9 of those Hobbits today, and then talk about the last 7 right at the end of the vlog. I'm diving right back in here, and what are we working on today? I'm going to pull this out. Is it 9? Yeah, 9 Hobbits. Assembled Hobbits. Now, I'm not going to dwell too much on these. Regular viewers might recognise these from a couple of vlogs ago, because you have seen these before. These are the warriors, my remaining Hobbit warriors that didn't get painted in time for Warhammer World Doubles. I assembled loads, I converted loads. There are 3 conversions in here that you've seen before, and I just didn't have time to paint them, so they were benched whilst I painted the other 14 in two vlogs ago. And these guys were on the to-do list for this year. I was going to try and clear my Hobbit backlog, and we're also obviously meant to be part of that project last time, but I just couldn't paint them in time for Throwing Skulls, and so I didn't want them to fall behind too long, so I've decided to do them now. So my last 9 Hobbit warriors are going to be painted on this vlog, leaving 7 models in here, and we will return to this box at the end of the vlog. So, what are my 9 Hobbits? They're just 9 warriors. I think there's a couple of archers and 7 militia. That's what I'm painting. And why am I doing them? Well, are you ready? I've decided to take them to Ardacon this year. Oh yes. So, where to start with this, really? I suggest the way to start with this is to get yourself a cup of tea. We're going to have a slightly different hobby vlog today. There's going to be a lot of chatting, a lot to listen to, but grab a cup of tea, grab your paintbrushes, and get ready. So, some of you remember, regular readers, that the Project Shire project started in July 2020 on the GBHL, and I resurrected it in July 2024 to start preparations for Throne of Skulls. And the first thing I was preparing for was Ardacon, and I took Hobbits to Ardacon. I took the Shire to Ardacon last year, and how did I do? I won the wooden spoon. I came dead last at Ardacon, and I've never been prouder. It was the first wooden spoon I ever won. It was awesome. For anyone who doesn't know, Ardacon is a yearly tournament up in Manchester that's certainly historically been the largest event in the calendar. and it has a massive team component to it. I am part of the Wanderers in the Wild. That's what these badges are. Not all those who wander are lost. And I have been wandering with my teammates for 9 years now. We've been to every Ardacon since it launched in 2016, and we absolutely love it. And we always go. And one of the rules is that your team, you can't share any heroes between your teams. So if you have a team of 9, you can't repeat any of the heroes. So every year there's a discussion about who's going to bring what, and you have to try and kind of divide up all the heroes so there's no overlap. And part of the reason for taking the Shire is that for the most part it doesn't clash with too many. The only thing can really clash with is if you've got Gandalf and Bilbo, then potentially Survivors of Lake Town can cause an issue. But no one this year wanted Survivors of Lake Town. Sam also is quite popular sometimes in fellowship lists. But basically, by me taking the Shire, it helps out of our army selection because it you know, all the other named heroes from the Shire doesn't do this, doesn't turn up anywhere else. So that's kind of part of the reason for doing it. But also, you might be saying, well, why the hell would you take them again, given that you finished dead last? And there's a couple of reasons for this. The first of them is, I think they're pretty good. I can't believe I'm saying this. Obviously, last year I used them in the old edition, and I also took a very, very, very thematic army. I was trying to learn the rules of the heroes and how they worked and all their special rules. So it was a fairly weak army made weaker for theme. And this year we have a brand new edition. Don't know if you heard about it. And we now have all of our books. They were all released in a perfectly timely manner. We have Armies of the Lord of the Rings, where the Shire list is in it, and Armies of Middle-earth. Now, I'm going to be a little mildly cocky on this one and say that I've been saying the Shire list in here is pretty good for since December, basically. Now, I say cocky, I don't know if that's the right word, because they might not be very good, but I've been kind of looking at this going, I think that even when it was a 500 point all hero list, I was like, those special rules are pretty good, and I think as and when they get their warriors back, they might be very good. Now, what's interesting is then since this book came out, since Armies of Middle-earth came out, what you suddenly get is the same army list. I'm talking about the Shire here, not Battle of Bywater. But now we have warriors. Now it's an army. Now we have militia, archers, and sheriffs again. And I think that they have low-key become a very, very good army. And really, no one's talking about them. And inevitably, the way this sort of stuff always happens is that you say no one's talking about them, and then everyone comes and goes, well, I was talking about them. And maybe some people are, but certainly to my mind, all the chatter has been about things like, I don't know, monsters and Moria and wild men hordes and Dale and everything. And no one's been going in the first 6 months. I reckon the Shire is the sleeper hit of this edition. Now, it might be because this book wasn't here. Possibly, and people are changing. But the start, I just feel like on streams and stuff, I can't point you to where I did it, but I think I've been saying for a while, I think this is pretty good. And so I'm kind of curious, I'm morbidly curious to now go from Ardacon last year, taking this army, to taking it again this year, and going the other way. So I'm going to try and build the most competitive Shire list I can at 700 points. That's the other thing, the tournament is 700 points. And I've been thinking in my head that the where I think this Shire list is good is somewhere between 600 and 800, something like that. So I was like, well, this seems perfect for me. So the great thing about Ardacon again is you have a team of 9, and your team score, your team placing is based on the highest 4. And this year we've got a great team. We've got 9 players, and I'd say there are at least 4 of them who play more competitively than I do. So I wouldn't be likely to score for the team anyway. So this is exactly what I said last year, by the way. So I get a free swing basically. I'm like, well, I'm not one of the people necessarily trying or expected to help us score. So I'll just take something for the fun of it. But that's what I did last year with Shire, and I'm going to do the same again this year. But I'm actually going to try and think, okay, well, this is my competitive Shire list. This is the one where I think, okay, put this to the test. Is it nonsense, or can you actually do something effective with this list in this new edition? And so I thought it'd be really fun to sort of wrap up this year of the Shire by going back to the same event with the same army in a new edition. So, and I also, if they are good, I kind of feel like I've earned it. You know, if it turns out that the Shire are really good in the game, I'm not jumping on that as a power gamer. I have been crying my way through painting and losing with Hobbits for the last 13 months or so. So I feel like I get to do this. And the other thing, which is super cool, is over the last 13 months, I've taken them to 4 events. The first event was Ardacon, and I got the wooden spoon. The second event was Throne of Skulls singles, and I won the gold. The third event was the league finale, and I got the wooden spoon. And the fourth event was Throne of Skulls doubles, and I won the gold. So I've taken the Shire to 4 events, and I've come dead last in 2, and I've won 2. So it feels like we need a 5th event. You know, we need that final. And I suspect Ardacon is probably going to be neither. I think it's definitely better than it was, so I'm not going to get the wooden spoon. But I don't think it's going to win. So I'm probably going to be mid-table obscurity. But I think that's kind of fun. And I just think there is something really nice and fitting about ending this project. Nearly ending it. One more bit of hobby to come in a few months' time, but essentially wrapping up Project Shire, as it were, with returning to the scene of the crime and going back to Ardacon, and seeing what I can do with a competitive Shire list. And I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited to go to Ardacon. I'm really excited to hang out with all my friends. I'm really excited to try out this army that I have just joyously loved painting, building, creating, converting over the last 13 months, and want to do more, basically. So that's the kind of project. Dates wise, it's Thursday. What's the date? It's Thursday the 31st of July, which means in 2 weeks' time I'll be at Ardacon. We go up on the Thursday, so it's very, very close, and that's what I've got 2 weeks to paint these guys. Now, I want to be absolutely clear with you, I don't need any of these. There is zero pressure on this. I want to paint these because it's thematic. I've got more than enough. I think I'm up to about 85 painted Hobbits now. I don't need any of these. I can happily take my army from the painting models, but it just feels really, really good and appropriate to be painting a new batch of Hobbits whilst doing a new kind of Hobbit army. And again, it's that old adage of if I don't paint these now, I'm probably never going to paint them. So I'm going to try and get those painted to clear the backlog. 9 Hobbits, they take me about 2 hours each, so I've got about 18 hours of hobby to try and fit in over the next 14 days. So it's not easy, but it feels relatively doable to me. But what I'm going to do is not give you the usual updates. I'm not gonna give you the updates on the progress and stuff. This is the last time I'm ever going to paint any Hobbit warriors. So what I thought I would do is give you more of a painting guide. I haven't done this sort of thing in ages, if ever. But I'm going to actually do some time-lapse stuff of me painting some of the Hobbits, talk you through my colour scheme, so that if you like my Hobbit army as we reach the end of this project, the colour schemes are here and available for you. And then also while I'm doing it, I'm going to chat about these. So I'm going to talk about these books and kind of why I think the Hobbits are the sleeper army of the edition and what I think you can do with them. So that's going to be the idea. I'm going to set out my stall for why the Hobbits are the super secret sleeper hit of this edition and how you can achieve some good things with them. So I hope you enjoy listening to that while I paint my latest batch of Hobbits. And then once that's done, we'll wrap up the vlog here, and then I'll head off to Ardacon. I won't talk particularly about the ins and outs of my army. I'll do that in the next one, and I'll have a review video from Ardacon in the next vlog, letting you know how I got on. So there we go. That's the plan. A little bit of a kind of time-lapse painting guide of some Hobbits, some discussion of the rules, some crunchy discussions about gameplay stuff, which is kind of cool, and hopefully you'll enjoy that. So yeah, settle back and let's get started and see what we can achieve in the next 2 weeks. I prep the model by gluing sand down to the base and spraying it white. Then I begin by base coating what I call my 4 key colours: the green, red,
blue and yellow. These are all much brighter colours than I normally work with and are a lot of fun to use when painting hobbits. The green areas are base coated with warpstone glow, a nice bright green. The red with corn red, a slightly duller but still vibrant red. The blue with Calidor Sky, which is a blue colour that I hardly ever get to use. And the yellow with Averland Sunset, which gives a nice deep base to the yellow. Once these are all done, I start to block all of the other colours in. The hafts of the weapons, any small pouches, and the hair are painted in Gawthor brown. The trousers are painted in one of two colours. I either use Rhinox hide if I want them to end up dark brown, or Steel Legion drab if I want them to end up with more of a tan finish. The blades of the weapons, as well as any other metal areas such as belt buckles, shirt buttons, or anything like that, are painted with lead belcher. Next up, the flesh is painted dwarf flesh. This is done to the face, it's done to the hands, and perhaps most importantly, don't forget to do it to the feet, which unusually for most models the hobbits have exposed. Finally, the shirts are painted with Rakarth flesh, along with any other areas I decide I want to be white or cream. Once these messy base coats are all down and finished, the whole base is given a coat of Rhinox hide over the sand.
Okay, so here are my two hobbits after their base coats are done. I just thought I'd show you them to see the state of my models at this point. So here we go. I've talked you through it, but this is one of them. You can see the base has been put down, and hopefully you can see that there's some brown from the hair over the green coat on the collar there. There's probably some flesh colour, I think, on the trousers maybe. I'm not sure if you ever see there's a little white gap in here where I didn't quite get it. But nothing has been touched up. I haven't touched up any of these. I haven't gone back to any of the original colours. Same with this guy. I did the scarf fairly late, so maybe some of that red has got onto the blue of the waistcoat. That's fine. Let's down look at the trousers. Is there some? You can see some of the brown from the bottom has got onto the feet. But I don't touch up any of the colours at this point. I just don't see the point. They're going to get a wash, and then they're going to get about 3 highlight levels, so that will sort it all out. So I show you this not to show how good my painting is, but almost to show how bad my painting is at this point. Essentially rough and ready base coats, ready for their washes, to kind of disguise this level. It's just not worth. That's a good example there. You can see there's some of the brown from the hair is on the rim of the hat there. I'm not going to go back and correct that. I just don't see any benefit to it whatsoever. Okay, so with our base coats on our hobbits done, we can get stuck into the analysis of why I think the hobbits are the secret sauce of the new edition. So I'm going to start with the Armies of Lord of the Rings, and I'm going to start with the Army List, because let's face it, in the new edition, Army Lists are everything. Whether a Get Force is going to be competitive is not really depicted or decided by the profiles. It's decided by the Army List, because they that controls what you can take together. And last December I was delighted to find that in the new edition there is an Army List for the Shire. Now, when this first came out, I was so excited because, if you bear in mind, I can't remember what date we got these books, but mid-December I think, I'd just done the Throne of Skulls project with Bilbo's birthday party, and this is the Army List for Bilbo's birthday party. It's not an Army List for the Shire. If you look at the rules, Bilbo's magic ring, Bilbo has the ring, this will be at night to remember, the Grey Wizard, and a long expected party. It's an Army List meant to not depict the warriors of the Shire, but to depict the party. So I was really excited about it. And then as I started looking at it, I then began to dream, hang on, this isn't good, is it? And of course, it looks like it's absolutely not. If we look at it, it's 500 points and it's all heroes. So we get Gandalf the Grey on cart, we get Bilbo Baggins, the old version, with Mithril and Mithril Coat and Sting if you want, although you shouldn't because you wouldn't have them at the party. Then you get Frodo, Sam, Merry and Pippin, who you didn't used to be able to take in the Shire list. You had to take the Travellers versions. You get Gaffer Gamgee, Farmer Maggot, Rosie Cotton and Lobelia Sackville Baggins. So it's an all-hero Hobbit list with Gandalf, and you can put them all in a single warband.
Then the special rules are Bilbo gets the One Ring instead of Frodo, so that's cool and thematic. It's after that that the special rules start to become really good. This will be a night to remember. The Hobbits of the Shire enjoy nothing more than a party to leave them in high spirits. Friendly models may re-roll failed courage tests. That's cool. Additionally, friendly models cannot have their courage tests reduced by the special rules or magical powers of enemy models. That's cool. So, re-rolling failed courage tests is awesome. Particularly at this point, bear in mind we're all hero. We're going to have very high courage, we're going to have will points, but being able to re-roll all, this is heroes as well, heroes, and there's obviously no warriors at this point, but all of your models being able to re-roll all of their courage tests is awesome. The second one, not having your courage reduced by special abilities is cool. I think this probably most commonly comes up with like Harbinger of Evil, -1 courage buffs, that kind of thing, and just be like, no. And so you're at your base courage all the time, and you're re-rolling courage tests. Absolutely awesome. Next up, the Grey Wizard. Though some see Gandalf as a disturber of the peace, many hobbits respect and admire the old wizard, especially his fireworks. Friendly models may benefit from Gandalf's standfast. Additionally, Gandalf may use 2 fireworks each shoot phase rather than 1, though they must be different fireworks and must target different modes. So we'll have to, when we get to the army list, we'll have to have a real chat about the fireworks. But spoilers, the fireworks are really good. And if you take this army list, you get to do 2 per turn instead of 1. That's great. And also, friendly models may benefit from Gandalf's Standfast. So not warriors, models. So that means Gandalf, I think, is still courage 3+, and he gets to re-roll that, and he's got a stock of he gets to re-roll the failed courage test because of this. So if your force is broken, Gandalf is taking his courage test on a 3+, re-rolling it, and then all of the models in your army are going to pass because of that. And then, as we'll see later, when you add warriors to this, that means that he will pass as long as he's not been charged in combat. All your heroes will pass, and then any other warriors that are further out away from Gandalf are going to be daisy-chained instantly. Really, really good. And then finally, a long-expected party, filled with merriment and ale. The Hobbit spirits are as high as they can be, and many feel they can take on anything life would throw at them. Friendly models will pass on a fate roll on a 3+ rather than on a 4+. Additionally, friendly models may re-roll fate rolls. This is amazing. Your entire army is all hero, so they all have fate points. I think they all have fate points. It's possible that 1 or 2 of them might not, I suppose. But you are passing them on a 3+, and you get to re-roll them. So that effectively means you're going to pass every fate point. Now, obviously, you'll spike a couple of snake eyes every now and again, but you can be fairly confident that you are going to pass every fate point you roll, because you pass it on a 3+, and you get to re-roll it. And we'll look at the stats in a comparison in a bit, but that suddenly starts to make you reevaluate how tough some of these heroes are. When I was playing with them in the last edition, one of the issues was that so many heroes had like 1 wound, 1 fate point, and so your heroes would go with all their helpful buffs would just go down incredibly quickly. Now your heroes are actually kind of tough. Guaranteeing to pass fate points and having models with 2 fate points actually, I would argue, makes them a lot tougher than sort of defense 5 models with 1 fate point passing on a 4+. So I was looking at this going, this looks cool. This looks fun. I never thought this on its own would be competitive, but I thought this could be quite good. Like a 500 point event, or maybe a 400 point event, dropping a few of the weak ones, I don't know. It's going to really struggle, obviously, to capture objectives and to do all those kind of things. But these hobbits might surprise you, I thought. And so I was primarily looking at this in December from a kind of, oh, that'll be cool, that'll be fun, and now there's a really cool army list. But I was like, well, that's quite good. And then what happened was I looked at the profiles, and that only further convinced me that there might be something in this. So what we're now going to do is we're going to pop back, we're going to put some washes on our hobbits, and then after those are done, we'll come back and we'll look at how the hobbits have changed across the 2 editions. Once the base coats and the Rhinox hide on the base are thoroughly dry, I start to apply a selection of washes to all of the areas I've base coated. I start with some traditional washes. All of the metal areas that had been previously painted Leadbelcher are given a wash of Agrax Earthshade to dull them down a little. Next, those same flesh areas that were painted with Dwarf Flesh, the feet, the hands and the face, are all given a coat of Reichland Fleshshade. This glazes the skin darker and runs into the crevices, needing a great base to build up the flesh highlights from. The pale areas, such as the shirts, are then given a wash with a watered down mix of XV88 and Dryad bark. This time I only apply it to the crevices and I leave that original Rakarth flesh base coat showing on the raised areas. I then use this same mix of XV88 and Dryad bark to shade the yellow areas, again only putting it into the recesses and leaving the Averland Sunset base coats showing through. With that dark brown finished, the remaining key colours are all washed with a watery mix of Abaddon black and a darker shade of the base colour. The blue areas are washed with a watery mix of Cantor blue and Abaddon black. The green areas are then shaded with a similar watery mix, but this time using Abaddon black and Caliban green. And finally, the red areas are washed with a slightly different mix by using Abaddon black and Rhinox hide to mix up a dark brown. I then also use this same mix to wash almost all of the remaining areas, most of which are some shade of brown. This includes the trousers, any belts, any pouches, any weapon hafts, or anything else that I haven't touched in one of the previous washes. Once the washes are thoroughly dry, I dry brush the sand on the bases with two separate dry brushes. I start with a heavy coat of Mornfang brown, which turns the base from a dark brown of Rhinox hide into a much lighter and richer brown. And then, once this is finished, I add a dry brush of a Shabti bone to add a cream colour and really make the base pop. I'll explain this in a bit more detail in a mo, but I do this before I apply my highlights to the model, as I can be as messy as I want with the dry brushing without worrying about getting paint on the finished model, safe in the knowledge that I can always touch it up later. Okay, so just checking in to show how they look after the wash stage. I've obviously in that little clip there I've talked through which washes we use, but again here you can see the kind of like finished result on that. See the tan trousers look a bit muddy where I've put the kind of like dark browns in, but again that all gets tidied up. I'll show you that green coat. Remember the collar was brown, it's now been shaded with green, which helps to colour it up. Again, I'm not tidying it up in any way, shape or form. But this basically, the wash on the flesh just ties everything together nicely. It allows me to start highlighting up. And look at the other guy. You can see the kind of XV88 and Dryad bark wash on the shirt a bit more. I'm going to give that slightly pale or slightly dark brown folds in there. Again, haven't tidied up that bit on the hat. That's how it goes. The other thing I want to talk about is the basing, because I know some people find this strange. So that I finish off my basing before I do the highlights, and the reason for that is because effectively I've started doing this because I use a painter handle. As far as I can see, the reason that you do the basing last is because you're going to be holding the base and you might kind of rub it off and that sort of thing. Whereas when you're using a basing handle, you don't have to do that. And because that's process there is so messy, if you want to actually dry brush and really get in on the sand close to the feet, you're obviously going to get paint on the feet. So I've always just found it much easier to do this stage now, and then in the highlight stage touch up the feet basically. And also you can see the dry brushing on the feet there kind of serves as a kind of semi-zenithal highlight almost for the feet. So you get a bit of paint on the bottom of the trousers and the bottom of the feet as you do here, but I just think that is far better than painting the model carefully and then having to agonisingly dry brush with a tiny small brush or something and avoid getting paint on the feet. So that's the way I do that. So that is them at their at the wash stage, and I now start building up the highlights. And so with the washes done, we can continue our exploration of just what might make the Shire so good on the table. So next up, we're going to look at the profiles. We know what can be in the army list, and purely in Armies of the Lord of the Rings, I want to look at what these heroes now do compared to what they used to do, and how that might change things. It's not my intention to go through every change we had, and I'm sure I'm going to miss stuff. So by all means, drop in the comments other things I might have missed. It might be that I know about them and I just didn't want to mention them. It might be that I've overlooked them. But let's get stuck in. So firstly, I'm going to start with kind of our outlier in that it's not a Hobbit. I'm going to start with Gandalf. So here is Gandalf the Grey. Now, for the most part, I think you would argue that Gandalf has got worse. He's essentially the same but his spellcasting's got a bit worse, and he's lost command. And I think there's a feeling that magic across the board has got a bit worse. So Gandalf potentially has gone down a bit in the pecking order. But what has got magnificently better is the fireworks. So if we were to compare the fireworks in the old edition, which I used and which were delightful fun, in the old edition, on Gandalf's cart, at the start of every friendly shoot phase, select a single enemy model within 6 inches of the cart and roll a d6. On a 4+, they suffer a strength 2 hit. Okay, so in the shoot phase, 6 inches of the cart, a 50-50 chance of a strength 2 hit. This was fun. I enjoyed using it, but it was so inconsistent. You couldn't rely on it to do anything. A 50-50 chance of a strike that probably wouldn't do anything. What do we get in this edition? At the start of every shoot phase, the same. He can select the fireworks and select one of the fireworks listed below. Choose an enemy model he has line of sight to and is within 6 inches of his cart and roll a d6. On a 2+, the chosen model suffers the effect of any selected firework. It confirms that it can be done even if he's engaged in combat, and it can target an enemy model who is engaged in combat and knowing the ways are required for this special rule. So it's essentially like a homing missile, and it now works on a 2+. So it used to work on a 4+ and do a strength 2 hit. It now works on a 2+, and you choose one of these. Whooshing arrow, the target immediately suffers a strength 2 hit. So that's the same as the last version. Even if there was nothing else, it is now hitting on a 2+ instead of a 4+. So that's better. But also, look at this. Goblin Popper. The target is immediately knocked prone. This has no effect on monster models. What's that you've got there? Aragorn on a horse, 2+, knock him prone. He gets the Ring of Barahir reroll for that, of course. Anyone else on a horse? Your Azog on the White Warg, your Boromir on horse, Imrahil on horse, 2+, knocked prone. That's incredible. Flaming Wheel. The target suffers a -1 penalty to their duel rolls in the ensuing fight phase. That is incredible, particularly in an army like the Hobbits or like the Shire, where they don't have a lot of kind of killy, choppy stuff. That's a great way for Hobbits to win fights. They're not going to win fights through higher fight value, but giving this, particularly to monsters who don't have might or heroes who've run out of might, that's amazing. And then finally, the big one. Target immediately suffers a strength 8 hit, and if they survive, are knocked prone. So this is the same as this one, knocking prone, but they do a strength 8 hit as well. It can only be used once per game. Big one, Pippin, big one. So that's kind of cool. But I honestly think this one with the strength 8 hit has far less utility than these two. The two brilliant ones are knocking something prone and -1 to the duel rolls. And that would be good in itself, but then when you consider that Gandalf in the Shire Army List can do 2 of these, he means he can knock a model prone and give a model -1 to their duel rolls every single turn, or if he rolls a 2+, which of course he's likely to do. Which effectively means you can stop 2 big enemy threats. You're very, very likely to be able to stop 2 models causing havoc, and that's amazing. So the fireworks get a great glow up, and then the fireworks get even more of a glow up off the back of the Army List special rule. Then obviously he's got 3 fate, which he can re-roll anyway, so he's already got the re-rolls, but he now passes those fate on a 3+, which is amazing. So let's go and have a look at some of our favourite Hobbits. We might as well do the Shire ones. There's not too much in here. Frodo's in there. There's not a great deal of extra stuff for Frodo. There's a few bits and bobs now that he affects other heroes and those kind of things, but there's not too much exciting stuff between editions. Sam's benefit, and bear in mind again, you couldn't take Sam in the last edition, is that he's got his heroic combat. So declaring heroic actions, if Frodo's engaged in combat within 6 inches of Sam, he can do a free heroic combat. Now, you could do this in the last edition, but you wouldn't have had them in this army list in the last edition. Sam also brings 2 attacks, fight 3, and heroic strike to the party. Granted, he's only fight 3, and you can only heroic strike by D3 now, but that still gives you the potential to get up to fight 5, fight 6, which might be very, very handy when you're trapping an enemy. He's also got a frying pan, which is it the old version of Bash? An infantry model on a 4+, it's stunned, cannot move during the following turn. So it's kind of it's an old version of either it's stun, isn't it? A kind of watered down version of the old stun, basically. So it's a kind of way of immobilizing someone. If you just manage to win a fight, roll a dice on a 4+, they can't move. And he's got 2 fate points, which of course means he can pass them on a 3+ and re-roll them. So if you bring Frodo, which I would probably recommend you don't do, then Sam gets that much better because he gets a free heroic combat. Then we've got Merry and Pippin. Now, in the past, Merry and Pippin were the kind of the auto drops. Sure, they could give Boromir a buff in Fellowship Army List. They weren't in the Shire list. But when you first look at this, they don't bring anything to it. They've got, their special rule is about Boromir or Gondor. So they don't necessarily bring anything to the party. And historically, you might think kind of, okay, well, they're 10 points, they're 20 points together, that's 5 militia. So do you take these 2 or do you take 5 militia? Most people would argue take 5 militia because that's 3 more bodies. And these guys in the old edition with their 1 fate point, they had a 50-50 chance of surviving, and they didn't really bring much to the party. But there is a really interesting thing now they both have 2 fate points. So they've got a little buff in the new edition. Not only do they have 2 fate points, they pass those fate points on a 3+, and they get to re-roll them. Again, it is very likely they will pass all of those fate points, which effectively makes these guys 3 wounds. And suddenly that's a different discussion. Granted, you'll still be down on models, but they're fight 3. So they add a bit more fight 3 to your army. So there is a genuine debate now to be had, I think, that suddenly because of this army bonus, these guys are worth taking. And I mean that competitively. Sure, if you have 5 more Hobbits, your breakpoint goes up and you can get a few more bows in. Maybe that will be more useful. But the addition of the extra fate point and this long expected party special rule really does bring them back into the discussion. Particularly if you know who you're playing, rather than going to a tournament, and you think Fight 3 would make a difference. If you're playing a Fight 3 army, then having some more Fight 3 models that are almost guaranteed to have 3 wounds effectively could be really, really useful. So there's our 4 basic Hobbits. We then have Rosie, Lobelia, Gaffer Gamgee, and Farmer Maggot. So 4 more options, and let's see what's happened to those. Okay, so first up, let's look at Lobelia. Now, stats-wise, she doesn't get a buff from the edition. She's still 1 wound and 1 fate. So that, sure, she's more likely to survive with 3+ and a reroll, but it's not like she's benefited from the extra fate. She still has her umbrella, which means that it's a hand weapon if she won't make strikes. And that's exactly the same as it was. She can still win it. She doesn't count as unarmed, but she won't make strikes, so fair enough. Her Furious Tirade rule, which is now enemy warrior models cannot benefit from a hero model standfast while within 6 inches of Lobelia, has had the glow up to end all glow ups, because historically, if we look at her old edition, no warrior model from either player's force may benefit from a hero model's standfast while within 6 inches of Lobelia. So this was always a good rule if you could get it to come off, and now it's brilliant because it no longer affects your own army. So if you can keep her alive right at the end of the game when your force is broken, just moving her within 6 inches of enemy heroes is amazing. And it used to have a lot of kind of balance and counterplay from having to manage where she went in your own army to avoid your own heroes. It doesn't have that anymore, so that's brilliant. And then she has gained a Stern Scolding. Once per turn, at any point during her activation, she can spend a will point, of which she has 4. Gandalf's got Strength and Will as well, should you need it. Choose an enemy model within 6 inches in line of sight and roll a d6. On a 2+, the model can't activate. And if the model takes part in a combat during the fight phase, they treat their attacks characteristic as 1. So 4 times a game on a 2+, again, let's assume you get 3 of those off. Is that fair? You can stop a model activating in the same game where Gandalf can be immobilizing a model, where Gandalf can be knocking a model prone, and where Gandalf can be giving a different model -1 to the dual roll, all in the same turn. And so this is a brilliant, brilliant bonus to just give you another way of stopping those enemy heroes. Also a small thing, but she gets a strength buff. She goes up to strength 2 instead of strength 1. And she's only 5 points more. So Lobelia has had a massive, massive glow up and is really, really good. And, is fully an auto-include now. Next up, we have Farmer Maggot. Farmer Maggot was always good value in the old edition. Let's see how he's done. He has gone up 5 points, so he's obviously got a bit better. But let's see how he's done that. He's still potentially your fightiest Hobbit. He's got fight value 3, strength 3, defense 3, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, as he always did. He still got his 2-handed weapons, so he has to go 2-handed. Bit of a downside, but when he's within range of an objective marker, he doesn't suffer the -1 to the penalty. So that's a bit of a buff for him. But the real glow up here is the dogs. if we go and have a look at him, they still use his courage like they always used to, and they are still fight 3, which is really, really handy. Again, brings more fight 3 into the army, but they now treat him as a banner when within 6 inches, and can re-roll failed to wound rolls whilst within 6 inches of maggot. Also, please don't underestimate the value of 8-inch move in this range. Having 3 in this army list, having 3 models that can move 8 inches is really, really handy. So yeah, incredibly, these now get a different banner effect just for maggot and can re-roll all failed wounds. So if you keep them as a tight little unit, they're really, really quite effective. All bringing 4 fight 3 models to your army, which is really, really useful. So again, for 5 extra points, well worth it. And then we turn to our final 2 heroes, which are Hamfast Gaffer Gamgee and Rosie Cotton. I'm going to deal with Rosie first because I think her impact on the game is a little more. I don't know what word would be specific. She has gone up by 5 points. She's now 20, but and she still has 2 fate points, which she had in the last one, but. Again, these 2 fate points, just like Maggot's 2 fate points, are now far more valuable because they are passing on a 3+ and re-rolling. So she is far more survivable than she used to be. She's still unarmed. She now gets fearful, which is of course a new rule. So she has to take courage. I think that's a bit that's a bit mean to dear sweet Rosie. Now, while Sam, who you probably are taking for his 2 attacks, his fight value, and his heroic strike, while Sam is within 3 inches of Rosie, Sam may re-roll any failed wounds when making strikes. So if you're positioning her properly, you've then got a 2 attack model, probably trapping something, then rolling 4 dice to wound, and Sam becomes far more effective because of Rosie. So I think normally when you're playing the Shire competitive, you're leaving Frodo behind, so you don't get the benefit of the heroic combat rule, but you are absolutely bringing Rosie, so Sam becomes a bit of a monster for this. And then, most importantly, Sweet Maiden of the Golden Ale. As Barmaid of the Green Dragon, Rosie knows that the best way to inspire a hobbit is with a nice mug of ale. Friendly models treat Rosie Cotton as a banner with a range of 6 inches. Additionally, so long as she is alive, Rosie will also count as a banner for the purpose of victory points in scenarios that award victory points for having a banner left alive. This is amazing. In the last edition, the only banner that the Shire could get was through Will Whitfoot. At the start of the fight phase, Will Whitfoot can elect to spend a point of will. If he does, Hobbit models within 6 inches of him count as being in range of banner. That meant it was a will point, so it was 3 times per game. You got a 6-inch banner, and it didn't count for VPs. Also, note that Will Whitfoot had 1 fate point, so on a 50-50 roll, he was dead. Now what you have is your banner being permanent for the game, being 6 inches. She has 2 fate points, so she's that are passed on a 3+ and re-roll, so she's far more survivable, and she counts for victory points, and she gives Sam this for 5 points more. Rosie is phenomenal. Rosie is an amazing profile who is absolutely brilliant and adds so much to your army and is absolutely vital, particularly in this edition of the game where banner VPs are so important. So yeah, you've effectively got a 3 wound banner hiding at the back of your army, which is really, really useful. And so our final one in Armies of the Lord of the Rings is Gaffer Gamgee. One of the coolest models in the last edition because he's an awesome model. He's such a great irate hobbit, and he brought these flower pots on, which were incredible. Now in the last edition, I want to start with this. He is fight 2. Strength 2, defense 3, 1 attack, 2 wounds, and 1/1/1. He has 1 fate point there. Okay. In the new edition, he has 2 fate points. So he's gained a fate point. You notice he's only 5 points more as well. He's gained a fate point, so that's his cost alone. Then also remember again, I keep saying it, those fate points passed on the 3+ with a reroll. So that's incredible. But it's the flower pots that really, really come into play. So in the old version, let's not worry about deployment, but we put these 3 down anywhere we wanted to. Hamfast and friendly Hobbit warrior models within 3 inches of Hamfast. So first things first, it only affects a kind of 7-inch bubble around Hamfast. They can re-roll to wound rolls of a 1, and it's throwing stones or making strikes. So that means if you're shooting, it doesn't take effect of any model within 4 inches of flower marker. So if Gaffer Gamgee is in the right place, any models within range of him can re-roll to wound rolls of a 1 against any model within 4 inches of a flower pot. And then, if an enemy model is on a flower pot at the end, in the end phase, they can destroy it. There's also a bonus about handfast re-rolling all failed wounds, but that one doesn't really matter too much. So, in the last edition, you had to be really, really clever and careful with your flower pot placement, because you kind of had to put them where they would affect the game, but you also had to make sure that you would be beyond them so that the enemy wouldn't stamp on them effectively. And that was always a challenge. They were fun, and basically, my memory of using them in a few tournaments in the last edition was that you'd get the benefit a few times a game, and it wouldn't have much impact, because it doesn't come up a lot that these criteria are met, and then you have to roll a 1, and then that 1 reroll has to wound, so it didn't come up a lot. Let's have a look at the new flower pots, which I would argue might be the biggest glow up in the whole edition. So we deploy them exactly the same, and then friendly Hobbit models, all of them, they don't have to be a range of gaffer anymore, may re-roll failed to wound rolls when making strike or shooting attacks that target an enemy model within 3 inches. There is so much buff in that sentence. So suddenly it's your entire army. It doesn't matter where gaffer is, everything in your army. They also re-roll all failed to wound rolls, so not just one, and now all shooting attacks are included in it. So bows are included in it as well, within 3 inches. Handfast then still gets a great bonus. He gets +1 to wound against striking any enemy model within 3 inches. But that one really doesn't matter. It's the army-wide effect. And what's missing, you can't destroy them anymore. There is no way to destroy the flower pots anymore. That is absolutely huge. And so your placement still matters, because you deploy them at the start and you have to kind of guess where the fighting will be. But you don't risk having them destroyed anymore. And they are incredible. So there are certain scenarios like is it Divide and Conquer, I think, where you got 3 objectives, or Hold Ground with a central objective. There are certain games where you know where the fighting will be, and you can put the flower pots exactly where you know the fighting will be. And for the entire game, your entire army will re-roll all failed to wound rolls. And that effectively makes, and bear in mind in this version we're still talking about this elite all hero force, which of course is what this is balanced for. All these rules are balanced to kind of make this army compete. But even with that, everything is re-rolling all failed to wounds effectively, and that is incredible. And so this is in December, and I was like, I still, if you want to take all of this at 500 points, and what you get, 4, 8, 9, 10, you get 10 models, most of them silly little hobbits. What I love about this army, and what it did so well, was it was give them a chance. Is this going to compete? Is this going to compete? No, but I think you'll be in the games for a while. I think your models will survive because of this, and I think your models will chop things up because of this, and then you'll probably lose a few games. But I was really excited to use this, and I was like, oh, I'm keen to give that a go. But of course, this is not the end, because this was then enhanced by another book, for a third book was made, and into that book the rules developers poured their militia, their sheriffs and their archers, and their will to dominate all enemies of the Shire. And after a bit more painting, we're going to come back and explore exactly what Armies of Middle-earth did to enhance this list. With the washes and the dry brushing thoroughly dry, I then begin my highlights. I start by applying a dot of white scar to the eye. I'm never too careful with this, and I don't really mind if I miss it, because I will tidy it up later. Once that has dried, I put a tiny dot of Abaddon black in the middle of the white dot. The most important thing here is to try and concentrate on getting the black dot right in the middle of the white dot. I never worry if the white or the black go above or below the eye, as I will tidy it up after this stage with Mournfang Brown. I find the Mournfang Brown is a really great way of almost cheating at the eyes. As long as you add a thin layer of Mournfang Brown above and below the eye, then however messy your eyes have been, they tend to look okay. With the eyes complete, I then give all of the flesh areas 2 highlights. The first of these, applied to all of the raised areas of the flesh, is with Cadian Flesh Tone. I do the nose, the cheeks, the ears, the chin, all over the face, and then the hands, carefully painting each finger. And then finally, once again, it's important not to forget the feet. all of which get a highlight over the toes and the heels and the ankles. Once this stage is done, I then add a second highlight of Kislev flesh to the raised areas of the skin, here being a little more careful and a little more considered in where I place the highlights. Once this stage is done, I then use a really watered down tusk or fur to subtly shade the flesh. This glaze is carefully painted into the recesses in very thin watery layers and helps to blend the two highlights together. With the flesh complete, I can start highlighting the other areas on the Hobbits, beginning with the brown tan areas. I start to highlight these with a highlight of Karak stone on all of the raised areas, which can look a little strange when contrasted with the dark brown of the shaded base coat, but this will all be resolved when you add the next layer. Whilst I'm doing this Karak stone highlight, I also add a highlight to all of the weapon shafts. Again, the contrast here will look very extreme, but it will be toned down later. Once the Karak stone layer is finished, I then return to Steel Legion drab and glaze down a mid-tone to blend the highlight colour in with the base colour. For the dark brown areas, I give the raised areas a highlight of Gorthor brown, which again leads to a very extreme highlight, before then using a mix of Rhinox hide and Corvus black to glaze down this highlight, working it into the recesses to finish off those dark brown areas. Once those dark brown areas of clothing are complete, I then use a watered down version of the same dark brown wash made by mixing Rhinox hide and Corvus black to dull down the weapon halves under the Karak stone highlights and to shade over the hair on the feet, which, with the Mornfang brown and Ashabti bone dry brushes that will be on them from dry brushing the sand on the base, will help to form an instant highlight in a kind of quasi slap chop manner. With the brown areas done, I then move on to the shirts and any other areas that I've decided to make white or cream. The raised areas of these shirts are first given a Palad Witch flesh highlight. Once this is complete, I then carefully shade or glaze this back down with Rakath flesh, gently mixing that top highlight of Palad Witch flesh with the original shaded base colour. The metals are then given a highlight of Ironbreaker all around the edge and along the blades. It's normally just the weapon blades on the models, but dependent on some sculpt, the Ironbreaker is also applied to buttons and to belt buckles. Once dry, the recesses of the metal areas are then given a light shade of Agrax Earthshade just to knock them back a bit and help blend in the blades with the hafts. With all of these smaller areas complete, it's time to highlight the fun, bright colours on the Hobbits. All 4 of these key colours get 3 more layers. Let's start with the green. I start by resetting the base colour of Warpstone Glow all over, just leaving the shade in the recesses to give me a nice bright base to work from. Following this, an edge highlight of Warboss Green is applied to all of the edges and raised areas. Again, as with so many stages in this project, sometimes these highlights will look very extreme, but don't worry, it'll all be glazed down in the next step. The last layer for the green is a watery glaze of Vulcan Green, which again is used to add in a shading layer between the top Warboss Green and the lower Warpstone Green and helps to blend all of the layers together. Next up, we follow the same process for the yellow. Again, the original base coat is reset with a layer of Averland Sunset, resetting that base coat and tidying up any areas where the shade has been too dark. After that, an edge highlight of Iriel Yellow is applied. I have experimented with both Dawn Yellow and Flashgitch Yellow at this stage as well, but Iriel Yellow provided the result that I was happiest with. Once those top highlights are complete, the layers are once more blended together with a mid-tone of Baylor Brown. I really love this colour and find that it produces a nice bright yellow tone which still looks natural and not too comical. The red is the only colour where my first highlight is not a reset of the base colour, as I apply a layer of Wazdaka red all over rather than the base coat of corn red. Why the change for the red? No idea. You'd have to ask 2020 Damian. He decided to do it 6 years ago and I'm just copying him. Once that's been applied, I use Tuscaur fur for the edge highlight on the red. This is another one where I've experimented with a couple of colours. Tuscaur fur means that your red will lean into a pinky highlight, but I've also experimented with Deathclaw brown for a more orangey finish. They both work well, and there's no reason you can't use both to add a bit of variety to the Shire folk in your force. Once that highlight is done, I once more glaze down, and this time I do return to that original base coat of corn red, which hopefully glazes the Tuscaur fur pink down a little and leaves an effective red highlight. The final key colour is the blue, and we effectively follow the same process as we did for the other three colours. We begin by resetting the base colour of Caledor Sky to tidy up the base coats and washes, as well as any other areas where the colours have run on top of each other. You can see a good example here, where the yellow from the hat has run into the Hobbit's shoulders, glazing the shoulders green. Once that base colour has been reset, Hoeth Blue is used for the top highlight. Again, I have experimented a little with the Fang, for example, for a slightly more muted purpley highlight, but I think I prefer the Hoeth Blue look. Finally, Cantor Blue is used for our now traditional glaze down to blend all of the colours together. And with that, your Hobbits are almost fully finished. All that remains is a quick edge highlight around the entire model.
Okay, so after a bit more progress on the Hobbits, we can get stuck into our final section of this army list analysis to see exactly what Armies of Middle-earth brought to the table. So, first thing, we're going to jump into Shire. I'm not going to worry about the companions, because these are in the Battle of Bywater list rather than the Shire list, so Frodo, Sam, Merry and Pippin don't come into it. And this is where we start to get to the stuff that actually gets dropped into the Shire list. So first things first, we get Fatty Bolger. Fatty, if I'm honest, doesn't get the kind of the buffs that really excite us in this. He's still only got the one fate point. He's got Dominant 2, which is fun, but and his special rule, if he attempts to charge a model with a Terror special rule and fails a courage test, he can still move as normal. It's cool, it's a nice bonus, but he doesn't. He's a fun, fluffy inclusion, not necessarily a competitive one. If we jump down to Paladin, and this is where, again, things start to get interesting. So, in the old edition of the game, the last edition of the game, sorry, I should say, Paladin, Dear Sweet Paladin took was, here he is, he was 25 points, and he's now gone up 5 points again. So, we're seeing the same across the board, that almost all the Hobbit heroes seem to be going up 5 points and getting quite a lot better. He's 2 wounds and 2 fate, which is what he was in the old edition, but again, those fate points now hugely more valuable. And you can also include upgrade Tookish Hunters +1. Upgrade 12 archers in his warband for +1 point to Tookish Hunters. Now, in this version, Tookish Hunters reroll to wound rolls of 1 when making shooting attacks. In the old version, Tookish Hunters have a fight value of 3+. So effectively, they became fight 3. So in the old version, you would have 12 fight 3 hobbits. In this version, you have 12 archers who can re-roll 1s when making shooting attacks. I think this is... It's hard to know. There's an interesting balance here. If you just look at this roll, I think the old rule's probably better. Obviously not if you're fighting a fight 4 army. But let's assume you're fighting an army where your fight value matters going up to 3. I think having 12 fight 3 models near a banner would be better than having 12 models who can reroll 1 when making shooting attacks, possibly. So that might be considered a downgrade. But if you come down here, friendly Tookish Hunters within 6 inches of Paladin get a bonus of +1 to wound when making strikes. So there is now a double buff for this, and that double buff makes them better, for sure. So you've got 12 hobbits with bows who are making re-rolling 1s, and then you also have 12 hobbits who are going to get +1 to wound when making strikes, which is huge for hobbits. He also gets a 12-inch stand flask that only hobbits can benefit from, which he used to get as well. So Paladin has definitely had a buff. It's not quite as significant as some of the buffs in the other book, but there's a definite buff there. So well worth thinking about.
Over here, we get Will Whitfoot, the Mayor of Middle-earth. Will Whitfoot in the new edition is 40 points. In the old edition, he was 30 points. So he's gone up by 10. So we're expecting to see quite some improvement here. He's 2 wounds now and 1 fate. So he doesn't get the buff of the fate because he was only 1 fate in the old edition, but he was only 1 wound in the old edition. So he's a little more survivable in this edition. He is leader, crucially, for Hobbit sheriffs. So he is your only way of getting Hobbit sheriffs into the Shire Army List, because the other 2 leaders are are either the companions or the sheriff heroes, and they're not in the Shire list. So that effectively makes him an auto include, because you're going to want the sheriffs with their fight 3. So that brings them there, and then because Rosie's now become the banner in the army, this rule changes. He used to be Mayor of Hobbiton, he's here Mayor of Middle-earth. At the beginning of the fight phase, before the declare heroic action step, he can spend a point of will. He's got 3, he used to have 3. If he does friendly Hobbit warriors within 3 inches of him, gain a bonus of +1 to their fight value until the end phase of the turn. So I think it's a weird one to compare. He's 10 points more expensive. If he couldn't bring sheriffs, I don't think I'd be including him. This often, you're often going from fight 2 to fight 3 with a tiny bubble. This is of course the hilarious. Actually, I'll talk about that when I get to Lothar. We'll come back to this, but I probably wouldn't be bringing him if there was. I probably wouldn't be bringing him if it was just this rule. And if he didn't bring the sheriffs effectively. But the fact that he brings sheriffs in, again, makes him something of an auto-include. And also, do you know what else makes him an auto-include? That model, which is awesome. So there's Will. And then we have Holfoot Bracegirdle and Robert Smallborough, who are not in the army list, so you can't bring them. You have Folko Boffin and Tolman Cotton. So let's have a look at what they bring to the party. So Tolman Cotton, his 2 wounds and 1 fate, and as you can see, every time I go to these, I was going to those kind of stats to see if they got more survivable because of the fate roll. He now has his pitchfork, which used to be a 1.5 weapon with stab and could support as a spear. It's now a spear or a 2-handed weapon. He gets the bonus down here. Friendly Hobbit models within 3 inches of Farmer Cotton may reroll any rolls of 1 when making a dual roll. He's pretty much the same, if I'm honest. It's a fairly balanced profile. He hasn't changed in points cost. And for my money, I don't think he's worth it anymore. He's an awesome model, but I think if you're trying to build a competitive Shire list, he just drops out. He only has 1 fate point, so he's not more survivable, and he doesn't really do too much. A 3-inch bubble really reroll on 1s when making a dual roll isn't great on hobbits, who are often losing the duels anyway. It's not that useful. It's only going to affect a few models, and then it might well be that if they reroll and get a 6, it doesn't matter anyway because of their fight value. The painful thing is he brings 2 might, and there's not a lot of heroes who bring 2 might, and that's the really interesting toss-up, that you can have another 2 might on your table. But when I was agonising it over the Ardacon list, he didn't make the cut, because it's effectively 2 might. You got 35 points, which is somewhere in the region of 9 hobbits or something. Probably 8 hobbits if you're taking sheriffs and that sort of stuff. So 8 hobbits or a hero with 2 might, and you tend to go for the 8 hobbits. But he's fine. Then we have Folko Boffin, who is 5 points more. So you'd expect him to have had a buff. In the old edition, he was 1 wound and 1 fate, and he is 1 wound and 1 fate in this edition as well. So no change there. He doesn't get a massive benefit of the new army rules. If he's within 3 inches of Frodo, he can use Frodo can use Folko's will points to declare heroic move instead of using one of his own might points. That's really good. He had that in the old edition. But you have to remember, for that, you need Frodo, who you're probably not bringing. And he has this special rule, which is new. So this is kind of where his 5 extra points come. Whenever a friendly Hobbit model within 6 inches of Frodo spends a might point, they can roll a d6. On a natural 6, the might point spent is free and doesn't reduce the model's store of might. We took him to Throne Skulls Doubles, which you've heard the review of in the previous game. And because you have so many heroes with so much might, it is great. And you do end up using it. And maybe once a game you get a free might point off it, which is nice, but on its own, it's not something you can count on, and you can't guarantee he's going to be near every hero when they're calling the heroic. So you can't rely on it. And the thing that got me is, as great as this is effectively 3 free might, because you've got 3 will, so 3 heroic moves. But to do it, you have to take Frodo, who is 55 points base. And I reckon if you're going competitively, you might well give him the mithril coat. You might well give him Sting, to keep him a bit more survivable, at which point you get 70, 75 points. So this becomes 100 points, effectively, of investment. A minimum of 70 points and up to 100 points of investment for, effectively, 3 might points. And suddenly you're like, oh no, that's absolutely not worth it. So Folco is only worth taking if you're taking Frodo, and Frodo probably isn't worth taking, which kind of writes Folco off out of the competitive list for me for this. Boldo you can't take in the Shire list, so that means that the only one that we have left to talk about is Lotho, Sackville, Baggins. So Lotho, let's see how he compares to his previous version. He's 30 points, and he used to be 30 points. He's still got 1 fate and 1 wound, which is what he used to have, and he's still got his 4 will points. He's still got exactly the same family rivalry, so he can't take part in heroic actions. You're not going to take Frodo, so it's only going to affect Bilbo, who you will have. Okay, fair enough. And then he's got a considerable wealth, which is the same sort of rule he used to have, which is on a this is a kind of similar one. It's a model trying to charge him, and it stops on a 2+. It used to stop on a 3+, so that's got a bit better. At the start of fight phase, before heroic actions, friendly Hobbit models gain +1 bonus to their fight value, which was the same as the last edition, and until the end, this one won't affect you because the other one's for ruffians. So effectively, what you're bringing him for is one of these 2 rules. And again, you're not bringing him for this, really. You're not going to be using his will on this. You are using him to 4 times again give your hobbits +1 fight value, which of course is really good. Again, we chose, I think even at doubles, which was 800 points, we chose not to bring Lotho to our army list because I don't think it's that good. And this is where I wanted to kind of come back to this one here, that this was the most hilarious overreaction on the internet about the fact that you can have fight 5 hobbits. So let's absolutely break it down what this means. What you can have is Will Whitfoot can bring 12 sheriffs, so you can have 12 sheriffs who are fight 3. Will Whitfoot can use a will point to make them fight 4. Lotho, Sackville, Baggins can make a will point to make them fight 5. So in a ludicrously perfect world, you can have 12 models who are fight 5 for 3 turns. And this was often used about against the Rangers of the North. How can we have fight 5 hobbits when Rangers of the North are only fight 4 and this sort of stuff? But of course, the reality of this is that's impossible because they have to be within 3 inches of them. And to get fight 5, you have to be within 3 inches of both. So suddenly imagine you've got 2 models here, 3 inches this way, 3 inches this way. I've said that's a 7-inch bubble for one. If you've got 2 and they have to be in range of both, that becomes a 6-inch bubble. So you've got a 6-inch bubble that can affect. None of them have spears. So if this is a battle line, that effectively means 6 of your sheriffs can be fight 5 3 times again if your positioning's perfect. And then as soon as the battle lines clash, let's be honest, they're going to be moving around, they're going to be spreading out a bit, so you're probably not going to get that. And even that, this is also applying that your opponent, with his magic spells and his shooting, didn't prioritise your 12 fight 3 models, which are the best models in your army, which he obviously will. So yes, if you believe the lunatics on the internet, you can have 12 fight 5 hobbits for the game. The reality is you might be able to get 7 fight 5 hobbits for 3 turns a game. The reality is you will probably have 1 or 2 fight 5 hobbits once in the game. If you think that's going to turn a game, good luck to you. So there we go. So the interesting thing is, I don't think there's too much here which really enhances the list. Definitely will. Paladin's next, I think, for sure. But Folco, no. Farmer Cotton, no. And Lotho, no for me. Again, I don't think it's enough. I think he's not turning models to fight 5. He's turning fight 3 models to fight 4. You have to take, or fight 2 models, fight 3. You have to take him to get your sheriffs into the army. And I just thought for 1 might and 1 fate, he's just a little too squishy, so we didn't take him. But there's definitely a thing here. Spread him along your line. Don't worry about the 5/5 nonsense, but spread him along the line to make more models fight 3 or fight 4, and that might well turn a game. So that's the end of the heroes. Those are all the heroes that can be added in. So you might obviously think that's it, but that isn't it, because potentially the most important turn of a page for this army list is this one. Hobbit Militia, Hobbit Sheriffs and Hobbit Archers, which can now be included in the Shire list. And this transforms it from a kind of cool, quirky, all-hero list with some really nice buffs into a really competitive force. you can't underestimate how much adding warriors into your army makes an army competitive. Obviously, the bulk of it is going to be militia and archers. Your sheriffs have hand and a half weapons, which is really useful. They don't have to go two-handed. They can get a burly buff, but not in the Shire because it comes from one of the sheriff heroes. They're fight 3, which is great. So fight 3, two-handed weapons, lovely. And then your Hobbit archers are basically the same. You have a Warhorn option for 25 points, which sets you back kind of 5 or 6 Hobbits, depending on how you build them. You're probably never going to take this now because you re-roll all courage tests. And so for my money, for Terra, you have courage 7+ models with a re-roll, and having 6 more of them is better than having than having courage 6+ models with a re-roll. And so as great as that was another points tax, and it allows you to hoard your army up even more because you can save points on the Warhorn because of the courage buff rule. The Hobbits remain as rubbish as ever. Strength 2, fight 1. You get some fight 2 archers now, but they are cheap, and so this transforms that army list into the traditional horde Hobbit army, and this is where the other buffs suddenly start to flip. Obviously, the fate one doesn't affect them, but the big one is, of course, the flower pots. The fact that now all these models in your army, it depends on the points value, but 50, 60, 70 model army are all re-rolling wounds at anyone near the flower pots is amazing. The fact that now these models are kept in the game by Gandalf's standfast daisy chaining onto heroes is amazing. And the fact that these models can re-roll all failed courage tests, even if they're out of range of standfast, or when they're charging a terrifying model, is amazing. And so that was the kind of last piece in the puzzle, basically adding these warriors in. So the heroes don't add too much. The really exciting hero is Will Whitfoot from Armies of Middle-earth. He's the one that you've kind of got to put in. I think Paladin adds a bit for sure, but it's Paladin and Will, and the others are kind of either leave them at home or optional ones. But of course, the massive thing of Armies of Middle-earth is it puts these into them and suddenly transforms your Hobbit army into your kind of cool all-hero force into a really, I think, quite strikingly competitive army. So there we go. Those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on the Shire in the new edition, in what it can bring, and I think they can do really well. Now, you've seen my previous vlog where I did the review of doubles, of Warhammer World doubles, and you saw how they got on there, and they performed surprisingly well. Now, obviously, that's Throne of Skulls. There's always that caveat, but they still won 4 out of 5 games. Throne of Skulls is still Swiss ranked. They still have to win. And it was at that tournament that I already thought all this, and I was like, hang on, there's something here. But that was the first time I really saw it in action, and that's what really encouraged me to go, do you know what? Let's do it. Let's go to Ardacon with this force. Let's not take the fluffy list we took to Throne of Skulls, where we did have Folko buffing, where we did have Frodo, because that's who would be at the party, and we were doing it for Throne of Skulls. Let's try and build a competitive force for Ardacon and see how well they can do. And that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I've been thinking about while I've been painting these Hobbits, getting them ready. We're now going to go back over to the models and finish them off, and then we'll wrap up this vlog and see how we're doing. Here we go.
All of the lighter brown or tan areas, such as belts, trousers, hat rims, quivers, arrow fletchings, pouches, etc., are all given 2 highlights. First with Baneblade Brown, and then at the very tips with Rakarth Flesh. These 2 highlights really help the various areas to pop and help to tie all these different areas of the model together really nicely and effectively. Finally, all of the key colours are given 1 final edge highlight. These are made by mixing Flayed One Flesh with a light shade of the key colour. Flayed One Flesh is mixed with Tuskor Fur for the red. It's mixed with Warbus Green for the green. It's mixed with Hoeth Blue for the blue, and it's mixed with Baelor Brown for the yellow. This pale pastel shade is painted carefully on the very top edges only, and again serves to really make the key colours pop. With the models finished, I remove them from the painting handles, blue tack them to some milk bottle lids, and paint the rims with Mormfang Brown. I tend to give my models 3 thin coats of Mornfang brown to give the rims a really even finish. I paint the rims with a cheap, flat paintbrush I stole from my children. It's the type that comes free with kids magazines and works really well as it's about the same width as the base rim and gives a really even coat. Don't worry about my kids though, they've got chuffing hundreds of them. And once the rims are done, the last thing to do is of course the basing materials. Now for my Shire models I use slightly different technique to what I normally do. I use these tufts. These are tufts I got from Andrew Pennington. You can contact him via Facebook. He home makes these wonderful little tufts, lots of different kinds, but I really like his flowers. So I take one of these flower tufts. I normally cut these in half, so they're half the size of them. That's what happens when you cut things in half. Pop one of those on the base, and then I use this flock, which is again a different flock to what I normally use. I don't honestly know where this is from. I can't remember it, so thank God my Shire Army is nearly finished, because I'd never be able to replicate this. But you can see it's full of little flowers, and what this basically is once I've glued the tuft down onto the base, it's normally quite high for a Hobbit, so I just trim a couple off. So over the years, as I've been working on my Hobbits, I've trimmed a couple of flowers off and I drop them in here, meaning that sometimes when I put the static grass onto other Hobbit bases, they get more little flowers popped in. So those are my basing materials, and here is the finished job. Here is the one guy that you've seen being worked on. Hopefully it's now in focus and you can see the finished effect of that Hobbit. Da-da-da. And here is the second one. A little model. Very happy with how it looks as well. You can see the base materials there. I always try and make sure the grass kind of goes over the tuft a bit, more than I would normally, just to make it look a bit overgrown. And so that is the end of my time lapse on how I paint Hobbits, and I'm delighted to say I haven't just done them, but I have done all of the Hobbits as well. So let's have a look at my archers. Just a normal archer model here. You see the basing. Really cool. Happy with his face. Then we got one converted archer in Mary's head. Again, I'm sure I've said this a lot over the last few months, but I never quite know how their faces are going to come out until I see them on the camera here. I'm seeing these in a way that I can't see with my normal eyesight, so it's quite nice to see. So far they've been alright. I've got 2 more normal militia. I've got this dude. It's a bit more brightly coloured than some of the versions I've done this one. This one normally ends up with some sort of brown or sort of tan or white shirt or trousers or something, but I decided to make this one pop so he stands out from the other ones. One more of this guy. He's always my least favourite face to paint. There's that, I'm not sure what that is down there. Is that the remains of a mould line or something? It's got a very, very severe cheek. It's done some real contouring on this guy. But the eyes looks right from there, doesn't it? It's pretty cool. And a yellow cloak this time. And then I've got 3 converted militia. So I've got the one who's just kind of having a dance at the party. That's a very optimistic take on this, but this is just this was the real bottom of the barrel, right? It was just a body and arms I had left. Body, arms and head I had left. So not great at all, but he's good. Background filler. Here you got the farmer maggot body with a merry head. That's quite cool, with his big old axe. And finally, well, the normal militia with another merry head. Nice bright yellow shirt on that one. So actually it's quite interesting because I've got the same model here with 2 green jackets, so they will have followed the same guide, and they are pretty similar, aren't they? You can see maybe one on the left is a bit lighter than I would have gone on here. Also compare the reds, pretty similar. So sticking to the guide does work, it seems. And there we go, 9 Hobbits. My final batch of 9 warrior Hobbits are done, ready for Ardacon. God knows if I'll actually take any of these ones to Ardacon. I'll just have to see. But I'm very excited to head off. And I guess what we'll do now is head over to the chair and wrap up the vlog.
And there we go. The 9 models are done. My final 9 Hobbit warriors are done. And certainly to my mind, far more importantly, this vlog is done. More on the monster that has been this vlog in a minute. I have one item of errata, which is, as I've been editing this vlog, I went through and realised I didn't talk about Bilbo. I didn't talk about Bilbo Baggins, and you've got to talk about Bilbo Baggins. In the old edition, there was very little difference between Bilbo and Frodo having the ring. At Throne of Skulls last year, so old edition, I actually, because I was doing the birthday party, I actually asked my opponents to let Bilbo have the ring, because it was just themey and thematic, and every one of them said, yeah, obviously, because there was no real difference in it. It might be, I think it made it a bit worse, you could argue, but they both had 3 fates. They both had 2 wounds. Frodo had 2 might, so he was a bit better, and he had a few kind of extra special rules effectively. But there was no difference in it. And I somehow in this edition skipped over Bilbo, and you mustn't skip over Bilbo because he's absolutely vital, because Bilbo has had the glow up to end all glow ups. So Bilbo Baggins, aging Hobbit now, he's still got his 3 fates, so his 3 fate are so much better than they used to be. 3+ re-rolling. He's far more survivable for one thing, which is great. He has Sting and the mithril coat, and we know that the mithril coat, like mithril shirts, have had a buff. But the main thing, the really kind of vital thing here is Bilbo's rule, slip away. Bilbo has had the ring in his possession for many years and knows the best ways to use its power to sneak around. Whilst Bilbo's wearing the One Ring and is invisible, enemy models engaged in combat with Bilbo will halve their fight value, even if there are other models friendly to Bilbo engaged in the same combat. So Bilbo effectively gets the old ring rules in the new edition, which is amazing, because it means you can put Bilbo in, you can put him in maybe with heroic striking Sam, a bunch of sheriffs near a flower pot, trap him, 2-handed, Bob's your uncle. So Bilbo is brilliant in the list. Bilbo's an auto include, I think, bringing the ring in, and he's another tool in your ability to take things down. So you now have and there's so many I forget, but you've got Sam's frying pan, you've got Lobelia's stern scolding, you've got 2 fireworks from Gandalf, you've got Gandalf's immobilise, and you've got Bilbo's ring, all as a way of dealing with those big scary enemy threats and neutralising them every turn. It works really, really effectively. So yes, apologies for missing Dear Sweet Bilbo, but hopefully I've caught that before everyone started commenting about how the hell I could ignore the fact that Bilbo's got the best ring rule in the game now. So indeed, that vlog is done, and I'm enjoying my victory cup of tea after it. This one has been a slog. I think as you look at this, it's probably about 1 hour and 40 minutes long. It's a feature film, right? It's a big old vlog. And it's very, very different for me. It's, I think you've seen in every element of this, there's 2 completely different things I'm doing. I don't normally do the tactics chat, and I definitely don't normally do the painting guys. And today, in over the course of the last few months, as I filmed this and as I edited it, I realised why I don't do the painting guys, because they're hard and they're horrible, and I didn't enjoy it one little bit. So the footage that you've seen, hopefully, of the painting tutorial, I'm kind of glad I've done it. I'm glad it exists. But my God, was that a faff. I was not very good at that at all. I couldn't work out where to put the camera. I found it hard to keep the things in focus. It wasn't comfortable to paint through. And then once you've done it, once I'd done all that and had it, it was over 2.5 hours of footage. And if you go back and watch it in this vlog, I think it lasts 15 minutes for you. I think there's about 15 minutes of painting tutorial in this vlog that had to be cut down from 2.5 hours of footage, not to mention the 60 different photos of paint pots I had to take, and the voiceover and the scripting and all that. It was an awfully long thing to do. And do you know what it's done? It's given me a real newfound respect for the channels out there who do regular painting tutorials. I'm not really into that stuff. It's not the kind of content I consume. I don't watch a lot of painting tutorials, but and I certainly don't make them. And I found out why this time. But if you watch Chris on Swords and Brushes, or Tom on Planet Mithril, or Stu over on Miniature Realms, or any of the other wonderful channels that are making this kind of content, if you like that, make sure you're leaving them comments telling them how much you like it, because let's assume they're even vaguely doing it the way I did it, but just far more competently. It's a hell of a lot of work. It's a hell of a lot of time, a hell of a lot of effort to plan, to film, and to edit. So I did not enjoy this in the slightest. I can't stress this at all. And so I hope you like it. I hope you've enjoyed having that kind of the painting guide there. It feels right to have it here as I paint my last Hobbit warriors to look back on in the future and sort of say, okay, this is the painting guide, and I hope it's useful to you. But I always implore you for engagement of the comments, but more than ever, please drop a comment down below. If you liked it, tell me you liked it. If you didn't like it, tell me you liked it, or just something, because good God, I didn't enjoy doing this. And it's I've been at this point where there's been quite a productive release of vlogs, and more on that in a minute, and it's been going really well, and this one ground it to a halt. And so I reckon if you go back and look at the release dates, it's been like a new vlog every sort of 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, something like that. And there's probably been a couple of weeks between these because it just took so long to carve through everything. But it doesn't matter, it's done now, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm sorry that there was stuff in the background, and that sometimes the models went out of focus, and that I blocked it with my hands and stuff. I really am sorry. I gave it a go. I ain't going to be doing it again anytime soon. Enjoy. So there we go. The horrors of the vlog. But on a slightly more positive and more positive news, what we now have to do is catch up on our numbers from the last few months. So the last time I did my numbers update, my backlog clearing update, because remember, the point of the channel is to help you clear your backlog. Victory tea. It was the end of May. And at that point, I had bought 20 models, I had painted 14 models, and I had sold 2 models. That means 20 new models into the backlog, 16 models out of the backlog, for a net of -4, which was very, very bad. And I said, we're going to try and do better in the coming months. And so let's catch up on what June, July, and August did for those numbers. So first things first, in June, nothing for any of them. I didn't buy any, I didn't paint any, and I didn't sell any. No idea why, really. I think it's probably because in July I finished some Hobbits, so I reckon I was painting the Hobbits for July. In June I just didn't finish them, so nothing for June. In July I bought no models, I sold no models, and I painted 15 models. Oh yes, so I painted the 13 Hobbits for the doubles tournament, which you saw in 2 vlogs ago, and as well as that, I painted Folko Boffin and Radagast the Brown. I did the metal Radagast on a B-Sime stream, so that was great. So I painted 15 and didn't buy any. So that left us at the end of July with 20 models bought, 29 models painted, and 2 sold. So happily into the black. And then in August, which is what this vlog's covering, I bought none, I sold none. Hang on, that's a bad thing. So selling is good for the numbers. And I painted 11. So I painted the 9 Hobbits that you have followed on this. God knows I painted those, didn't enjoy it. And I also painted Tom Bombadil on a B-Sime stream. And I also painted Helm Hammerhand Wraith of the Hornburg for Ardacon doubles with Tom Harrison, which I loved. And I was really happy with that. It was a really cool, fun model to do over a few evenings. As something completely different. And we, as you'll see in the Ardacon review, which is coming next, we just had a blast with him. He was awesome, and he's quickly become one of my favourite profiles in the game. So at the end of August, that left us on 20 bought, 40 painted, and 2 sold. So hooray! We have really turned this around. I've basically, over the course of these 3 months, painted, is it 24? That's 15, 26. I think I paid 26 over the course of these 2 months and not added any. So that was brilliant. So yeah, we are now at the end of August, so that's 8 months into the year. We're on 20 bought, 40 painted, and 2 sold. So we are still some way off painting 100. We've got to paint 60 models in the last 4 months of the year, when we've only painted 40 in the first 8 months, which seems tricky. And if we do that, we'll probably get to the magic 5% reduction. But at the moment, we're not there, but we are far healthier than we were at the end of May. So hooray, Kaloo. Also, on just a brief mention of Radagast, Tom Bombadil, and Helm Hammerhand. This vlog has been very, very, very much about Hobbits. But I like to document everything, so in the slideshow at the end of this vlog, looking at the painted models, you're going to see those three in there: Radagast, Bombadil, and Helm. I've put pictures of them at the end. So they're not Hobbit-y, but they'll be documented there, and hopefully you can have a little look at those pictures. Also, in the comments of a few of the conversion videos, a few people have asked me how chopping up all of these models and all these conversions, how that affects my backlog numbers. And the answer is, I had it paused. I didn't know quite how it was affecting it from sort of November until now. And it is quite hard to track, but as far as I can see, before I started converting the Hobbits last November, I think it was, maybe October, I had 43 models. I think there was, once I'd painted all my normal Hobbits and my heroes, I had 43 base models available for my conversions. And that included the wonderful donations I got from Chris Webster, Julian Hammond, Michael Haskell, and Jamie Wiggins. Okay, so 43 models were available to me to chop up. And then I started slicing into them. I did a bunch of conversions in November. I did a bunch of conversions in sort of June, July for doubles. And then I finished off a bunch of conversions now. And now I can count up and see what I've actually got. And as far as I can see, I have 40 finished models. And the way I arrived in those numbers is that I did 18 conversions for Throne of Skulls last November, I did 13 conversions for June, and I did the last 9 models, a few of which are conversions for this vlog here. So that gets you to 40 models. So I've gone from 43 base models to 40 models. So I've lost 3 models during the conversion process. Now, I know categorically I've chucked 2 bodies away. I got down to 2 ruined metal bodies, like kind of they had no heads, no arms, no legs. They were just chunks of metal. And I was just like, do you know what? This is unsalvageable. So that's at least 2 of them. And I figure that one of them is probably the Scarecrow, because that's 2 models becoming 1 model. So the Scarecrow is probably like a 3rd model. So that in my head is like, I think that's it. I think I had 43 models. I've now got 40 models done. I threw 2 bodies away, and I've got a Scarecrow. I think that's probably it. Now, it's obviously possible that I've miscounted in some way there, but I now know categorically what I've got left in the backlog, and so I've adjusted my backlog. So I've also been able to do a little bit of subtle backlog reduction by that. Now they don't count towards my yearly numbers in terms of, I'm not counting, I've done another 3 by getting rid of those, but they're not now in my spreadsheet in terms of my total collection. Basically, I think what's essentially happened is I've changed 43 to 40, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's hopefully that answers that question to those of you who asked. And it's delightful now to know well and truly how many Hobbit models I've got. I've got no more bags of bits that need to be converted. I know exactly how many Hobbit models I've got. And I believe, as of right now, I've got exactly 100 models painted for the Shire, which is kind of cool. I'm kind of pausing the Hobbit painting here for a while, but to have exactly 100 models is kind of funky. So there we go. One more thing that I want to do before we set up the future is to talk about... Be careful with this. This. I told you right at the start that this box would come back. I was going to come back to this box, and for you, right at the start was probably about an hour and a half ago. For me, right at the start was several months ago. I recorded that clip introducing this video, presumably in very early August, I think, and now it is late October. So yeah, nearly 3 months have passed for me between these videos. But as I look inside this, I think I said this in the opening clip, there are 7 models left in here, which is nuts. I can remember sitting on that sofa. There's a little clip from it right at the start of this video. I was sitting on the sofa in a room that is now my child's bedroom in July 2020 with this box, and it had over 100 Hobbits in it. And it was this kind of crazy project that I was like, one day we're going to have 100 Hobbits painted. And I've done it. I've got it. It's so close to being done. And that box has gradually been whittled down over these, whatever this is. Is it Project Shire 16 or something? They've been whittled down to 7 models left. I've told you I've painted all my warriors. So there are 7 heroes left in this box. And I wanted to have a competition. So I'm pausing this. I'm now moving on to my Throne of Skulls project for the end of the year. But obviously I will be returning to finish the 7 models that are left in here. And I'm going to be doing that in the first half of next year is the hope and the plan. And so what I want you to do is guess what they are. Now that's obviously impossible, right, to just guess 7 Hobbits, but I think I can make this possible. Firstly, they're heroes. They're all named heroes, so no warriors, okay? And then the other caveat I want to get you, and I need to be very careful about how I say this, is that they are all profiles for named heroes that are not selectable in the Fellowship Army List. Okay, so the reason I'm trying to say this is because there are a million versions of Frodo, Sam, Merry and Pippin that can be taken in the Fellowship list. Yeah, you know, so that could be Frodo, Sam in Orc armor, it could be Merry in Final Fate of the Witch King, whatever. Any of those models you could use as Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin in the Fellowship Army List. Okay, so they're out. All of those are out. I've still got a bunch of those sort of unpainted Hobbits in my Fellowship kind of case. So it's none of those. All right. If you couldn't use these models to represent Merry, Frodo, Sam, and Pippin in the Fellowship Army List. Cool. And so there are 7 models in here. They are all named heroes, and they are all models that, over the course of Project Shire, these 16 videos, I haven't painted. Now, because of the way I've converted them, I'm not ruling out the fact that I've painted bits of them, like chopped them up and done different things with them. But they are, if you came around to my house and said, oh, let's play this game, there are 7 named heroes, 7 named hero models that I couldn't put on the table. Effectively, it'd be like, no, I wouldn't be able to do that. I can't do that. Would have to proxy it, and they are left in here. They're the only ones left. And so, if you fancy it, having a punt, as well as your normal lovely comments talking about the video, have a guess at what they are. And if anyone gets it right, you're going to get a prize. You're going to get a Hobbit-based prize, a real prize with a decent value worth having. Will be my pledge to you for engaging. And yeah, so that's the plan. Now, this is a long-running competition, and I will reveal the answer to this competition and the winner of this competition in the vlog that when I'm painting these, basically. So I reckon I might turn to these in sort of April, May, June 2026. So you've got basically at least 6 months. If you're seeing this in the 6 months, the competition is still open, and I won't confirm who's won until that video. So I need 7 names, 7 profiles, 7 models, however you want to do it, and they all have the Hobbit keyword as well, to be absolutely clear. But named heroes with the Hobbit keyword that you couldn't use in the Fellowship of the Ring Army List. Now, you might just want to have a guess at this. You might want to go back and watch all of my Project Shire videos and watch me paint the models and tick them off. I'm not suggesting anyone does that, but if you do that, you should. If you had the whole range of Hobbit heroes in front of you and you tick them off as I painted them, you should be left with 7. I believe there's only 7, and I believe they're all in here. So yeah, hope that's a bit of fun as a bit of a competition as we have this kind of final pause before finally truly finishing Project Shire sometime next year. It's been a delight kind of returning to it for, I think, 4 vlogs this year. I think Road to Doubles, Doubles review, Road to Ardacon, and coming up soon, Ardacon review. It's been a joy going back to this project, not just because of how well Doubles went and how well or not Ardacon may go, but just getting back into the Hobbits, playing with them again, tidying up the army list and all that has been absolutely great, and I've really loved it, and I am genuinely quite excited about getting these last few models done and really truly completing it. So my hope is that you'll have sometime next year, there'll be at least one video, because there'll be like a hobby video, but I reckon I will try and turn it into going to a tournament, and then maybe even doing a full kind of army showcase once that's finished or something. So there might be, I think, at a max 3 Project Shire videos left to come, something like that, a hobby one, a tournament one, and an army showcase. But it has been a joy, and that's a project that started in July 2020, and it is so cool to be so close to finishing it and be down to 7 models. So what are those 7 models? Have a guess and let me know in the comments. So there we go, to the future, and I have to say I'm very, very excited. The next vlog is going to be covering the review of Ardacon. It's going to be going through how all the models I painted in this vlog got on, and how all the tactics I discussed in this vlog got on. Was I right? Are they the secret sauce? Or was I catastrophically wrong and they're still awful? We'll have to find out. And you'll find out very, very soon, because the Ardacon review is going to drop very, very soon. I'm quite excited. I'm going to say that whenever you're watching this, the Ardacon review is going to be out like within a week. It's already filmed, it's already done, and I just need to do a bit of editing on it. And as I release that and kind of come to the end of this little Project Shire bit, it's a really good time to reflect on my 2025 hobby vlog progress, because we are finally catching up, and I can't tell you how excited I am at that. I recorded the Ardacon review you're going to see in the next vlog shortly after returning from Ardacon in August. So I haven't actually gone back and rewatched it yet and edited it, but as memory serves, it's quite fresh. It's not one of those ones where I don't remember what's happening. I think I did it very soon afterwards, and I had a pretty good grasp of what happened in the games. I'll have to wait and see if that's true. And when I was recording that, I was so far behind on my editing. On August the 1st, 2025, you guys had 1 hobby vlog in 7 months. And that hobby vlog was from November 2024, 9 months earlier. Okay? So, in August, not only had you only had 1 vlog in 7 months, but the last thing you'd seen was in November. And at that point, there was still 4 more vlogs from 2024 to be released. This is on August the 1st. And at that point, I was really panicking. I was genuinely like, am I honestly ever going to catch up on this? Or is it just too far? And that was kind of crazy. Now, 3 months later, this is you'll be seeing this start of November, so 3 months after October the 1st, when the Ardacon review drops, you will have had 11 vlogs in 3 months. And that, I'm pretty pleased with that. In terms of some good old editing, backlog clearing, I'm pretty pleased with how that's come. So you've had 11 vlogs in 3 months, and that has that will have covered 9 months of hobby. So you had this kind of the long wait. It's almost like waiting for Armies of Middle-earth, isn't it? We had the long wait for everything, and then suddenly everything came, and I'm really quite chuffed that over the last 3 months I've been able to catch up on 11 vlogs, so almost a vlog a week, and covering 9 months. Now when you see this and when you see the Ardacon one will depend on whether you're a Battlestreams Middle-earth patron, because the patrons get them about a week early normally. So you'll either be seeing this video in late October or early November, but you are, whichever way round it is, you are now watching content that is only 2.5 months behind. Yeah, we're watching this in late October and you're watching content from mid-August, so we're only 2 months behind, whereas in the 1st of August we were 9 months behind. So we have really caught up, and I'm beginning to feel that hobby editing pressure alleviating a little bit, which is cool. And it's particularly cool because we're about to fall behind all over again because we're entering Throne of Skulls season. So, like I say, you're going to get the Ardacon review, and then we're going to start Throne of Skulls 2026. And I currently have at least 7 vlogs planned to cover the Throne of Skulls 2025 project. and a prologue. Oh yes. So there's going to be loads and loads and loads of content coming, and my hope, my very sincere hope, is that you're going to get at least 3 Throne of Skulls vlogs before Throne of Skulls. Okay, so that means if you're watching this in early November, I don't know if the next one will have dropped or whatever, but I think there are still there's another 5 vlogs to come in November. Is the hope, is the goal. So plenty more fun to come. But I'm doing all this now because the Ardacon review doesn't have any new clips in it. The Ardacon review's all been filmed, so it doesn't have it's me in August, whereas this is me in kind of October, like reflecting. But it's quite exciting because the Ardacon review will come out, and then you're going to start a stream of very excitable content about Throne of Skulls season. And yeah, like I say, I've got a bit of a different video coming first, which is a Throne of Skulls prologue video, which I'm kind of excited about to get out to you, and then we'll be back into the crazy levels of Throne of Skulls stress. So there we go. This hasn't helped the length of this video, this kind of long rambling denouement, but I think it deserved it. I'm feeling pretty good about everything we've done here, and I'm feeling pretty good about the hobby in general. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, please drop us a comment below. Let us know what you think the outstanding Hobbits are, and let us know whatever you thought of this vlog. I really would love to hear how I managed to cope with this painting video, if I managed to cope with it at all. Hit the subscribe button, tell your friends about Battlestreams Middle-earth. The link to our Patreon is down below. Our patrons are incredible, wonderful people. I appreciate each and every one of you. You help me keep the lights on at this place and help me keep being able to do this content and convince my wife that it's good for me to make this content. So I really do appreciate each and every one of you who helps support the channel. And if you do like what we're doing here, either in the live streams or in the hobby vlogs, then it would be great if you consider joining up to the Patreon stream. But yeah, that's it for another hobby vlog. We'll be back very soon, either with my next hobby vlog reviewing Ardacon or on the next live stream on Battlestreams of Middle-earth. And I will see you then. Take care.